table here. Some of you are familiar with Otto. Otto Random is the founder of Slum to School Africa. You can see his education there, but what's most important about him is this passion. His passion for what he does. His passion for getting children from the slum to the school. Because he firmly believes that with education, we can transform the nation. So at this point, I welcome Otto to come to here to speak to us, and he has a fantastic presentation. I listened to it in Abuja. Get ready to be wowed, okay? Please clap for him. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Okay, exciting. No pointer. Okay. So, Abuja was very interesting. It was very insightful and also very exciting. I had a great time, and thanks to the organizers for inviting us to Abuja and also to Lagos. So I hope when there's the Kingdom Summit in New York, you would also invite us. And when we have the Kingdom Summit in London, also invite us as well. Okay. So I had a presentation. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I have just about 30 minutes, and I hope I can cover it. In Abuja, unfortunately, I wasn't able to play some of the videos that we had, but I think it would be great to just put a few things in context. So I would just start by sharing a video. And this video, why it's very interesting to me, was that we started this organization in 2012. In fact, today is a very exceptional day, because it was on this particular day in 2011 that I went into a community called Makoko for the first time. In 2011. And then I was having my national youth service. And so, David's the video ready? And so, working in the bank at that point, I was just so perplexed about with so many issues I came across, just around I was working in VI, just a few streets from here. And every day going to work, I come across kids who were just out of school. On the street, when I drive to work, I see these kids. And I had also come across these kids, in a video that was done by BBC. It was called Welcome to Lagos. And I was like, of all the beautiful things in Lagos, the BBC could just report the slums and all the bad stories. Anyway, so I went into Makoko for the first time, today, 8 years ago. And that was basically where the journey began. I was I would say traumatized by what I saw, the children who were really in their thousands who were out of school. And after working at the bank for 3 months after then, on February 27, 2012, I resigned from the bank to go work with those kids and see how we could get them into school. And after about a month, I was able to get my friends together. We raised about ₦1 million and got 114 of those kids into school for the very first time. And that was how Slum to School started. So just watch that video. That was that. David? The reason why I did that video was at that point in 2012, I had already left the bank. And I did it because of so much passion. I just wanted to see that those kids had an opportunity to get into school. And working in the bank, I just could not concentrate. So I started making so many errors and so many mistakes and getting so many queries. And I just felt I needed to leave. My parents felt like the witches have actually succeeded, And And I left. I had some savings to carry me up for a few weeks, but for a few months. But it was not enough to get the kids into school. And so I wrote over 150 proposals to different organizations. We walked the streets of VI from office to office, trying to get people to sponsor these kids, but we didn't get one response. And so I was forced to use what I had, which was a BlackBerry phone, to shoot that video, which eventually, sorry, this is the Abuja presentation. It's a totally different presentation. Which eventually I shared with my friends, and after sharing it with my friends, I was able to get 100 of them who bought into that vision. And we launched the campaign. In less than 1 week, we were able to raise ₦1 million to get 114 children into schools for the very first time. Some of those children today are in SS1, SS2, SS3. We have, and since then we've been able to provide scholarships for over 3,000 children, supported over 55,000 children in so many ways. Our volunteer community, which started from just 100 of those, my friends, today we have over 10,000 volunteers from 35 countries who are working tirelessly across different parts of the country, supporting underserved communities and children and getting them into school. And that was basically how the journey started. Now, why am I saying this? Because vision is very, very important. Next slide. Vision is actually very important. Now, I'm sorry, that's not the presentation. Vision is actually very important. And the Bible says, of course, this is the Kingdom Summit, so I'll quote the Bible, right? Proverbs 29, verse 18. That where there is no vision, what happens? The people perish. So have you ever asked yourself, why are we where we are as a nation? Do we have a vision? I'm asking the room. Do we have a vision? Do we have a vision that we know of? And I mean, the market woman at Obalende knows the vision. She owns it. She believes it. The conductor, the bus driver has. We don't have a vision. And that's why there's also no unity amongst us. And so vision is extremely very important. And one of the things I've come to understand is because we don't have a very clear vision, we don't know where we're going. We're just moving without a very clear direction. And so different administration comes and set different policies, different goals, different set different trajectories. And so we're just moving in different directions every other 4 years. Nigeria is one of the most populous nations in the world at the moment. We are the 7th. And being the 7th, with a population of 201 million people, it's very clear that we have the fastest population growth rate at 2.4%. Now, the countries with the highest population, like India, their growth rate is 1.2. America has 0.8. China has 0.4. Our population growth rate is 2.4, which says that in the next 30 years, we're going to have over 400 million Nigerians, making us the third most populous nation in the world. And by the time most of us in the room would, be getting ready to pass the baton to our grandchildren, by the end of the century, our population will be over 752 million Nigerians. Now, you could just scroll on that. Just scroll, let's go. I think I might just find a way to catch up from, yeah. So you look at that chart, it shows you our population growth rate. Now, Uttar Pradesh is a state in India, which also has a high population growth rate, but that is not even as much as ours. The next slide. Now, look at this. That's our population today. And over 54% are young people below the age of 19. Over half of our population. Over 77% of our population, over 77% are young people below the age of 34. My colleagues, my friends, my brothers, my sisters, my age mates, but we can't decide where we're going as a nation. We're not in political positions. We don't have the chance to be in political positions. We don't have the support for, to pursue our dreams. We have to take the bull by the horn and make our dreams come alive. And you see, below 19 years old, we have millions of children who are in school, learning, but getting very poor education. And millions also who want to go to school, but do not have the opportunity to get an education. And if you see by 2100, like I said, over 752 of us will be. And by then, it wouldn't be 77%, it would be 91% young people below the age of 34. Nigeria is going to have the youngest population in the entire world. But that's potential. That's potential. That's not a threat. But it could be a threat if we keep praying without doing anything. Next slide, please. Now look at our geographical map. And when you look at Brazil, which has a higher population than we have now, United States, Pakistan, India, China, you can see the landmass, right? You can see Nigeria's landmass, can you? And you know what's going to happen? You know where these people are going to be? With such a population, if we are not intentional about the actions we take. The next slide. That's where they're going to live. In slums. In slums across. And slums exist. If you stand on the top of this building, I'm sure you're going to look around and you're going to see slums. These slums are not in the north. Urban slums are right here in the city. And I mean, I have, we at Slum to School, we have a database of over 45 slums in the city of Lagos. The population of Lagos grows at 84 people per hour, the migration rate. So before I'm done speaking and until Osime is done speaking, 84 people would have moved into Lagos, migrating from all parts of this country. Lagos has the highest growth rate in the world, faster than New York, which is about 15 people per hour. There's crisis, but we don't know it. And if we don't do anything to support these young people or to support these people migrating and looking for better opportunities, one day what's happening in the north will also happen here. But it means we need to rise up and start taking action. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. So I won't be able to go into this. Next slide. Now, Slum to School started, and we went into schools. In so many slums, we said, rather than build schools, why can't we probably work with governments? Because there's been a narrative where we feel it's a competition, or it's actually a fight between the government and the people. And so there's this perception that once you are in government, then you are the enemy, or you're corrupt. And so lots of good people do not go into politics or do not go into governments. And so the people you leave in that space are the ones who will actually make the decisions. And most times, the decisions are never the best decisions. And so we realized, let's see how we can collaborate with government. And so we reached out to the Ministry of Education, to SUBEB and different agencies and said, we want to see how we can work with the public schools. How can we collaborate with these public schools and improve the quality of learning, not just for the curriculum or providing better teachers, but also infrastructure. Because when a child learns in a good environment, he or she is encouraged to come to school. And we saw most of the spaces where these kids were learning were extremely in very bad shapes. And so we started working to see how we could adopt schools. And we saw classrooms like this. We converted them to things like this. Our volunteers raised funds and converted classrooms to things like this. The next slide. To this. The next slide. We built healthcare centers in the community like this. And we realized that children started coming to school. The enrollment rates there increasing in the slums to the point where we did not even have capacity in so many of these schools We provided additional teachers. Next slide. That's a video. I don't know if it can play. It's a video. No. Anyway, so if you follow Slum to School, I'm sure you could find that video. It's a video of one of our innovation labs somewhere in Makoko, and it's one of the best you will find in any private school. I'm not saying public school. Now, we told these kids that where you come from should not determine the opportunities you have. Because you come from a community that is underserved doesn't mean you deserve less. But then we also realized that these children in so many of these schools actually deserve our words, our thoughts, our actions, and our policies give them less. So we realized that children at the age of 15, 16, at primary 6, most of them could not read. Why couldn't they read? Our policies, educational policies. And so we went to find out what were some of these policies. One of the things we realized was that for you to get admission into a very good university, like the University of Lagos, to study medicine, you need a cutoff mark of 240, 250. When I went to school to study medicine back years ago, it was 270, so it keeps coming down. To study engineering, the cutoff mark was 220. To study pharmacy, law, you needed to score above 200. But to study education, you needed to score 180. And any of the educational courses. But that was not even the real issue. That was just the cutoff mark. Or rather, that was the JAM score. Now, the percentage for the post-UTME score was 83% for medicine, 78% for mechanical engineering, 73% for law, 74% for computer science, but 52% for education. But that was still not the issue. The JAM score, now we have the universities, we have the polytechnics, and then we have what? The colleges of education. What happens in the colleges of education? That's where the teachers, the human resource, the people who teach the children in the classrooms, that's where they are being taught. And why you need a 250 to go study medicine, in Lagos we have 3 polytechnics. We have St. Augustine College we have 3 colleges of education. St. Augustine College of Education in Yaba. We have the Akoka College of Education Akoka. And then we have Mokoped, Michael Otedela College of Primary Education. Now, to get to Mokoped, your JAM score should be 100. St. Augustine College of Education in Yaba, your JAM score should be 100. And Akoka, which is just close to Unilag, your JAM score should be 120. And these are facts. You could go check them out. And so we intentionally tell ourselves that for you to go to the university to study medicine, you should be smart. But if you're not smart, there's a place for you. Come and teach the kids. And so we ask ourselves, why are these kids not brilliant? And this is institutional. This is institutional. Now, I'm just going to show us 2 examples of instances. I wish I could show more, but because of time. Go back, please. Go back. Now, this next. Now, we have at the moment about 300, about close to 400 of our kids who are in secondary schools, who started from primary schools over the past years. They've kept going. And one of the things we've seen, that even in the schools, we have policies that are very horrible. Policies. So you tell me that a child who is extremely brilliant, has 80 in English, 90 in science, or in every subject the child is smart, but if he or she doesn't score over 50 in English or maths, he or she has to repeat. And so we realized that in one of the classes, in one of the schools where our kids were, over 40 of them were forced to repeat SS1. Why are you repeating? They said they scored 48, 49, 42, 46 in maths. Oh, you scored 48 in maths, but you passed every other subject and you're made to spend one whole year of your life because of 2 marks? Whose fault is that when 40 students fail? The students or the teachers? The teachers. So how don't we hold teachers accountable for their errors? No, we don't. We don't even hold the principals of these schools accountable for their teachers. We don't hold the commissioners accountable for the schools. There's no accountability. No one is being held for nothing. And so our people, our children, and guess what happened when that girl repeated? That's the girl, Deborah. Her mom told us, we don't want her, please, she's wasting your money. Let her come and go and marry. Now, in communities like this, Deborah is a big girl. She was 17 then. She's 19 now. And in the community where she comes from, like Makoko, at the age of 17, you should have 2 or 3 kids. We've seen some of our beneficiaries who at the age of 16 had children. 14, a girl was pregnant. And you need to be very diplomatic. Because if you say you want to go and do child rights acts in a community like that, that's the last day you would be able to support other children. So we have to be very diplomatic in a lot of these kinds of conversations. But these are children. And so last year we were invited to speak. I was invited to speak at the platform by Covenant Christian Center. And at the end of that, my spirit just told me, speak about Deborah. She was one of the 6 kids who spoke at that event, because I always love to share the stage with them whenever I speak. In Abuja, 2 of them spoke, and they were amazing. I hope you watched the video. But because of the time, I just didn't want to bring some of them here. So I spoke about her and told her story. And right there, she got a scholarship to go to Abuja. She got a scholarship to go to Word of Faith School in Abuja. I really wished I had the second presentation because I wanted to show her results. Deborah went to Abuja, and in her first term exam, she was the 4th in her class. In her second term, she was the 4th in her class. She graduated, she was top 3, and the school said, this girl is so brilliant. Please, can you bring more children like her? And this was a child who was going to drop out of school. And so we had an opportunity to take 3 more kids to Abuja, to Word of Faith. So which kids do we take? Of course, one of our superstars, Mariam. So we took Mariam. Of course, Mariam is a Muslim girl, but we told the school that we are not going to discriminate based on religion, culture, gender, ethnicity. She's smart, she deserves it. And the school said, yes, we don't also mind. We're a Christian school, but we'll accept a Muslim girl. And that's what the Nigeria we need to have. A Nigeria that is not divided on religious lines, on ethnic lines, on gender. That's the Nigeria we want to have. And so Mariam was there. The second boy was a Muslim boy, Mustafa. And then we had to choose one more child. And for us, it was just based on merits. And so a number of our kids wrote the tests. We had a few scholarships for a few of them in Lagos. One of the kids, next slide, please. Next slide. Someday in 2012, we were paddling on the water going for one of our advocacy campaigns, and we saw this young girl. Pooh! She just paddled her boat with so much finesse and went past us. Who is she? We followed her to our house. And her name was Sisiano. Sisiano had never been to school. She had about 4 other siblings. None of them had been to school. She was 8 years old then. And so we made sure she was among the first set of our beneficiaries. Sisiano was the best. We went for competitions with different schools. Corona, the Lagos Prep, Lagos Preparatory, Middle Hall. Middle Hall, she was the best athlete. She won 5 different schools. She was smart, she was intelligent, she was athletic. But all of a sudden, She just started performing badly in school. She lost interest in school. What's going on with you? We couldn't tell. What's happening at home? We couldn't tell. She would miss school, she would miss the mentorship programs we have every Saturday, and we knew something was wrong. And even though she was not among the best in that internal exam we had to take them to Abuja, I told our team, we need to take this girl out of here. She needs to go. She needs to go to Abuja. But we knew that they had to write a test in Abuja. So we took her. I went to Abuja. I said, to be very sad, Sha, we'll pay this flight fare and still pay it back to Lagos. So we took them to Abuja and they wrote the test. Mariam scored 77. Mustafa scored 74. Sisiana scored 34. And the school said, we can't give her the scholarship. She deserves it, but we can't give her because there's a standard. It's a scholarship. We can't defend giving a child who scored 34 a scholarship. So you could take her back, and she prepares, and she cried. And we cried with her. It was heartbroken because I knew that if we leave her in her community, that was going to be it for her. So they gave us an option. Either you take her or you pay the school fees. Oh, school fees. Okay, let's find out how much is this school fees. We've been enjoying free scholarship so we went to the accountant and they told us the school fees was 985,000 naira for a year. And then we had another like 300 and something K for flights and upkeep and all of those things. Of course, we support thousands of kids and it costs 50,000 naira per child to keep a child in school for 1 year. It's so subsidized, but it was intentional so that we can support as many kids. How do we justify paying over 1 million naira for one child? But this child really deserved. We didn't want her to lose it in life. So we I stood there. I didn't even share it with our board. Mr. Lero, Mr. Tobo is on our board. I didn't share with our management team because I knew that everybody would say, forget it, send her back. So I stood there with the head of our legal team and I said, Aaron, we need to look for this money. We're not taking this girl back to Lagos. We need to look for this money. And so we kept her in school. We were able to pay 400,000 naira for the first term. And this was in September. This is October. They're on midterm break, so they attended the summit in Abuja. And the director of the school shared her result. I would have loved to show you guys. It was on this PowerPoint. Sisiana scored, she was the 5th position in her class. Her least score was 85. You have no idea. Like, she had 100, 98, 95, 100, and that was basically it. Ladies and gentlemen, every child is a star. Every single Nigerian child has a potential. But if we keep judging fishes by their ability to climb trees, we're going to have a population of 400 million people. That's an asset. Let's start thinking about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That was awesome. Please keep clapping, keep clapping. Thank you very much. I just want to, thank you. I just want to bring out a few things that he said, just to make sure it resounds. And one of them is that the population of Nigeria is mainly 77% less than 34 years. And the way we are going, except there is a new policy of one child, one family, we're going to grow to 752 million. Wow. In 2100. Gosh, that's the thought of it. Yes, he mentioned we agree that Otto and his team are a group of visionaries. So the website to go to for Slum to School is www.slumtoschool.org. Did I get it right? Okay. So you can donate, you can
adopt children,
adopt children. You can volunteer. There's so much you can do. Please clap for Otto again. All right. We are going to try and walk quickly because there's a lunch that we're going to have downstairs at 1:15, and your tags would give you access to get the food. So please don't lose your tags. When you go there, please have it on you. Our next speaker is a great woman of God, Mrs. Akinyemiju. She has a career spanning 40 years in the university and school administration. She's also the current chairman of the Association of Christian Schools International, Africa, not just Nigeria, and she's the president of Dan Soul Christian Mission. Please let's clap and stand and welcome Mrs. Akinyemiju to the podium. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Let's be seated, please. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for inviting me. So, it's a Kingdom Summit, and I thank God for it. And I'm asked to talk about using schools as a tool for nation changing. Otto, thank you for opening my eyes to the other side. And you said so much about the public school system. We could just go deep and deep into it. I'm not going to go into that. Please permit me to add the word Christian to the topic that I was given. That is using Christian schools as a tool for nation changing. Because this is my area. It's more familiar. It's a more familiar ground for me. And obviously, there's a big difference between the regular school, whether it's private or public, a Christian school, and a regular school. And let's not be deceived. A Christian may be running a school and is not Christian. A church may run a school and is not Christian. Because of time, I may not be able to give you the details that make up the Christian school, but I'll try because of time. Let me, because it's Kingdom Summit, just say a few things in relationship between Christian schooling and the kingdom of God. A Christian school is sometimes and correctly referred to as a kingdom school. It's good to see the correct. Let's look at Mark 10:14, and it comes up in Matthew, Mark, Luke, when children were brought to see Jesus, and the apostles were preventing them. And to be honest, a lot, church, apostles, parents, a lot is preventing children from seeing Jesus. Very sad. But Jesus said, he was displeased, and he is displeased right now because we are preventing children from seeing the real Jesus. We're making them see us, see our denomination, see our bishops, see our Jews. He saw it, he was displeased and said, let little children, suffer little children, depending on the version, come unto me, and do not forbid them, for of such is the kingdom. And so what's the relationship? How are children the basis of God's kingdom? Let's clearly say what the kingdom is. It's not in meat and drink like we are told in Romans 14:17, but it's in righteousness, peace, and joy in the Holy Ghost. So when children go through schools, our Christian schools, and they are led to Christ, and they must be led to Christ. If a child goes through a Christian school, every child that goes through that school must be given an opportunity to know Jesus, child by child. Because Christian schooling, it's about raising them as disciples one-on-one. They are led to Christ. They are made to grow spiritually through the Word of God. They are made to be filled with the power of God, stand in righteousness. And people would say, is it a church? Yes, it is, because that's the congregation. We got the statistics about the growth. It's a pity that church spends more time on the adults. I call the adults dry fish. You can't bend them. Thank God for some of them that come to know the Lord and still grow as adults. But the age 4 to 14, if you Google 4-14 window, you'll see there. They become disciples of Jesus. And that way, when they are the light, the salt, and when they have the mind of Christ, humble, knowing the Lord, and they spread, that's the way you are seeking God's kingdom, because that way the kingdom of God is fulfilled. But you know what? It's also a fulfillment of the apostolic commission, Acts 1:8. They go from Jerusalem to Judea, Samaria, and the uttermost part of the earth. By the grace of God, children from our school, they are all over the world. And that's the essence. The adults that we teach and that we have in church, and don't get me wrong, I'm still a believer. I go to church. I preach. But you know, the adults are in church day in, day out, or week in, week out. But these ones, and it's the same people, but these ones go, they leave your school, they are established in righteousness. And so they go from your school as they are Jerusalem and that environment to Samaria. So whether they go to Unilag, Ife, Covenant, Oxford, wherever you send them, the outermost parts of the earth, Asia, wherever. So that way you are fulfilling the apostolic commission, but you are fulfilling the Great Commission, because within your schools you are raising them as disciples. Every child in the Christian school must be raised as disciples. The process is called spiritual formation. Again, because of time, this presentation would not permit explanation. But when I give the school that I run as my case study, I might be able to mention that. Christian schooling is about educating children in our schools to have the mind of Christ. Let this mind be in you, which was in Christ Jesus. Graduating to be salt and light, Matthew 5, and sending them out to take their places in the various professions, the various mountains in Nigeria and beyond. You know, Jeremiah 1:5 talks about when they were in the womb, he said, I knew you, I formed you and ordained you a prophet to the nations. Another version talks about making you a voice. There is a place where every child is meant to sound, to be a voice. And so between the home, the school, and the church, we are meant to prepare them to be a voice. Our brother here was saying he was in the bank and he was uncomfortable. And people thought, parents thought, something don't happen to him. Witchcraft don't happen. But that wasn't where he was supposed to be. Amen. And so God has a place prepared for every seed, every child. The thing about Christian education is we're raising a new generation of children that will fear God. It's a huge assignment and it's a kingdom one. The special thing about education is that, incidentally, it affects engineering, it affects education, unfortunately, based on those things. Those things make me cry. When I think about education, the way it's been bastardized. I was speaking somewhere a few days ago, and I was saying, we need to go back to teacher training colleges. We need to do a few things to transform education. I worked in JAM. I retired from JAM many years ago. And the point is, someone that couldn't get into medicine or engineering, like you said, would say, well, just give me education. And so the dregs will go into education, and they go back to train. But the worst is, or not the worst, there are so many. These ones are not even educated. A lot of, whether it's medicine or not, they didn't study. Many cheated. I did a survey privately, one local government, and as the Lord provides for me, I will do more. I did campaigns against exam malpractice. It's like, again, those are things that make me weep for, because I have this heart, this burden for the youths and the children of this nation. 85% of the people that were interviewed have cheated in exams. When I meet someone, and when they get into universities, they can't cope, but the university makes it worse by making them cheat further. But let's not go there. I'm on Christian schools. The special thing about education is that it affects all spheres of life, medicine and all of that. It's meant to produce Christ-like men and women who will become, now listen to this. I said to church, and all of us here make up the church. Church is not the congregation, ecclesia, but talking about church now. If we don't raise children now, if we don't raise them to become those who will be Christian men and women, the population that we're talking about, the churches will be empty in the next 30, 40 years. I'm not kidding. It's not a curse. I'm not a negative person. But who are we preparing to occupy those churches? They'll be empty. The first time I saw for sale in England, tears were coming out of my eyes. I wasn't weeping, but the tears were just rolling. And a lot of churches in the next 35, 40, 50 years in this country will be on sale, empty, if we don't raise them intentionally for Jesus. Christian schooling produces Christ-like men, women, who will become the Christians in church, the Christian husbands, wives, fathers, mothers, who also will in turn raise, because this is God's desire. Isaiah 51 verse 8 talks about salvation from generation to generation. But if you study Psalm 78, it talks about raising them to have their hope in God. And like I said, the word being intentional. They in turn should learn. So when we are raising them to be Christian men and women, see, you know what we do in church, and I'm saying we, when they want to get married, we give 6 weeks of marriage counseling. It's late. It's too short and too late. Because teaching people about marriage, about how to be all of this, has to be through life. Christian education is lifelong. Home, school, church. But I'll show some figures if there's time. Graduates of Christian schools should become the Christians in politics, business, law, media, education, research, and all of that, agriculture. Personally, and this is why I do what I do. People look at me and say, why does she run around? It's not for money. It's because of my conviction. I see a new Nigeria through Christian schooling. A situation where children from our Christian colleges take their places as political leaders, shunning evil and ruling in godliness, not looting treasuries or embezzling the funds meant for running the affairs of the nation. I see it. And so intentionally in school, you are preparing them as leaders. You are telling them where you want to be a politician. They may not know. Some of them don't know. Some of them want to go into politics for the wrong reasons, but prepare them anyway. Some want to go into aviation. Prepare them to be Christian pilots, Christian whoever. Let it be that it is coming from that age, Christian leaders and all that they are meant to be. I see them being judges that will not pervert justice, and so on and so forth. So what's the process? How should we run? Christian schools should focus on spiritual and intellectual development of children at the same time. Call it 50-50. I see children, if you run a Christian school, you should be so much after their spiritual as you are after their intellectual development. Spiritually sound, academically sound. They're done in partnership, or they should be done in partnership with parents and other teenage ministries. I tell parents, now the number one church and school is the home, or should be the home. Unfortunately, parenting has gone down the drain. Unfortunately, parenting, family, and all of that. And we should also awaken to that. So I tell parents, I'm doing your duty. I'm not going to take it over. I want to partner with you. So I do a letter to every parent that comes to our school. I want to partner with you to do your assignment. Deuteronomy 6 says that. That's Psalm 78 that I talked about. So spiritual formation is done by leading them to Christ, ensuring that they grow through the various programs of the school to become disciples of Jesus Christ, one by one, no child left behind. As chairperson of ACSI Africa, when I took over last year, what I gave to them is the fact that knowledge should cover Africa as the waters cover the sea. We are doing intercession. We are praying that this darkness, this cover should be removed. Amen. And one-on-one, and people would laugh like I think it was Lera that was talking about Africa. When you are talking about, some people, Nehemiah, she talked about, when you are looking at it, people might laugh at you and say, even foxes, this world that you are building, this thing you are talking about, Nigeria, can you ever see things change? I see it changing. I'm one of those foolish ones that believe that things can change. Amen. And in my lifetime, I'm 70, but it can change. I will still see it before I go. Amen. There's something, like I said, called the 414 window. It's been established that 90% of people who become Christians and stand are rooted in Christ. Do so between ages 4 to 14. The figures are there. We can just scroll and leave that alone. Thank God for the statistics we had earlier on. There's this thing about the spheres of influence that a friend shared with me, and I thought I could share it here. It's the spheres of influence on children per week, the number of hours. And looking at it there, 35 hours in school, 12 hours with family, and those 12 hours, that's what I call awake time. Awake time. Parents, awake time. How many hours do you actually spend with your children, with them awake? 20 hours connected with friends. It's a US figure. 52 hours on social media and entertainment, then 3 hours church. Seriously, and these 3 hours of church, I can even contest it, because how much in Nigerian setting they buy ice cream after and all of that. So I wish, and I really wish, that we could increase on the time in school if it is Christian and if we are going to use it well. But again, the figure is better or increases if it's boarding school. But then I say it again, if you call it a Christian school, it must be Christian. The time must be spent interceding for them, getting them to know the Lord and all that. A school environment has many children per time. These are the advantages. It's a matter of numbers. The children do not stay, but they are moving. I've said it before. Then children spend more time in the school, from early education to college. And when exposed to the things of God, combined with academics, they graduate as godly seeds. In a year of 12 months, given the Nigerian school calendar as an example, they spend altogether about 9 months in school. I've talked about it being generational. The fact that a seed is given for a generation. 5. So the kingdom of God is spread through this, and it's faster and more easily established through raising Christian children through Christian schools. Christians in higher education, the universities run by churches or set up as Christian universities should be Christians indeed. All the schools that are Christian must be Christians indeed. I'm asked to give a case study, and I'm going to just give quickly a case study of Dancehall High School. Our spiritual formation process, we lead children to Christ, share the word of God in assembly, slogans, memory verses, biblically integrate the word of God. The word of God has to be the thread that goes through all that we do. Intercession is key. Galatians 4:19, my children in whom I travail in birth unto Christ is formed in them. A lot of things happen in the school that turns out to raise children that know and fear the Lord. And let me just give a few testimonies of my alumni. One, Iyanu, says, I got saved in dancehall, and that is the foundation of the amazing impact dancehall has had on me. truly, the motto, Dare to be Different, took a hold in my heart and strengthened my self-esteem. I met amazing teachers that imbibed discipline and spirituality. Punctuality was a key factor in dancehall until today. I ensure I'm early for important meetings. Finally, I learned the importance of family and friendship built on the bedrock of love. Let me take another, oh, that's a long one. Let me take another short one here. Dancehall helped me to realize that I could be different in a positive way, and I didn't have to succumb to pressure. I especially remember growing bolder in my academics and having the success mentality ingrained into me. I also got my first exposure to God's power in dancehall, and that's something I'm building on till today in my ministry. He runs a ministry called Young Ecclesia. Maybe this is the last one. I've had a passion for art since I was 6, but my feelings for it changed in grade 9. That year, I competed in an art competition with hopes of being the best until I saw a friend's work. His work is way better than mine. I don't think I can continue with this. In 2015, I took my Christian faith more seriously after a life-changing experience while I was at Dancehall High School, and it helped me rekindle my passion. I found my purpose in Christ, and God led me back to the skills He had actually given me. In 2017, I moved from Nigeria to Canada to study engineering, and my artistic ability gained some recognition from my friends and acquaintances. My art is not solely for my pleasure or personal gain, but to reach out to others. God gave me a vision of how He wants to impact people and inspire people through my art. Art became real to me and more meaningful, having to create something that can change lives of people. So on. I think I'll stop there. Thank you.
So thank you very much. Please clap for her once more. You know, 3 is a good number. So our third speaker of the day, Mrs. Osime, I'll do a very short introduction. One thing I can tell you is that Mrs. Osime is passionate about education. Not just passionate, but passionate about reforming education in Nigeria. We're on a WhatsApp chat group together. I know she spends hours, middle of the night, talking about things in ways in which we can change and transform education. She's the CEO and founder of Global International College, a secondary and sixth form college, which has branches both in Lagos and Abuja. And without further ado, I would ask Mrs. Osime to come. Please clap. Thank you.
Everyone, thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Pastor Ben. Thank you, Yinka. It's awesome. I love to talk about education. I think I was listening to Miles Monroe. Every morning I listen to a sermon. Actually, my churches are many. They're all over the world. I make sure that before I leave my house, not only do I have time with the Lord, I listen to a sermon. And he was talking about you being a gift. Everybody needs to find out what their gift is. I'm a gift to young people. Before I was born, on my mother's womb, I was called to young people because I love kids. I went and studied law, and that wasn't where I was supposed to be. It helps me, but I am back to where God has sent me. So everybody here has to find, and that's why they're saying that, talking about teachers, talking about, how many teachers are here, incidentally? Awesome, awesome. You guys need to give yourself a round of applause. You are the best in the best profession in the world. You know, I always tell my teachers that God bless you all. How many school owners are here? Fantastic. Yes. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Otto, Otto, you're something else. I'm just going to get my own technical one. They said I shouldn't talk about spiritual things too much so that it's balanced, which is good. Because at the end of the day, a school must make profit. It must be a business. You must do stuff. So I'm going to be talking about 21st century. I'm going to try to skip through it. I don't know how long I have. 20 minutes, okay. I talk very fast, and you're going to get the slides, so I don't need to label. This, I just saw somebody posted this on the forum. Like she said, we have a forum that we're there together, 160 of us. We decided that we're going to take education in Nigeria, and we're going to change it. Whether they like it or not, we're going to reform education. Because the children cannot wait for us adults. You know, they can't wait for us. Their lives are, we have 13.5 out of school. And we keep talking about those numbers as if it's something in the market. These are human beings. These are human beings' lives that are being wasted. Every day I see them on the road, I am pained when I'm going home. And they are knocking my window and they want to come and they're supposed to be in school. So what are we talking about here? So we need to build and produce the 21st century, not only just 17th century, but 21st century. So this quote says 21st century kids are being taught by 20th century adults using the 19th century. In fact, Nigeria is using the 17th century curriculum, not even 19th century. This is very generous. And techniques on an 18th century calendar. Nigeria, in its curriculum, still has a typewriter. Can you imagine? Business studies, and they are still teaching shorthand. In the day of artificial intelligence, in the day of robotics and STEM. And unfortunately, the state level can't do anything about it because it's at policy level, it's at NERDC. I went to NERDC once and I said, they called us to come and help with the curriculum. And I started talking about all those things. I said, Mr. Osman, just carry all your stuff and take it to Lagos. Yet you are dictating the curriculum that our children must do. Yet you don't want to listen to us. Anyway, a few quotes. The world is changing faster than ever before. We must be prepare our children for jobs that don't even exist. Robots now in Ibadan are working in a factory. Robots. So a lot of the jobs are taken over by robots. That's why it's so critical that we must prepare them for jobs that they cannot even think about. Who could think about Airbnb, Uber? Uber has the biggest fleet of taxis in the world. They've given such a threat to taxi drivers. And guess what? They don't even have one taxi. So it's about technology. It's about leveraging on technology. Educators must become activators of learning, creating a 21st century culture. We must reimagine education. Teacher training requires a paradigm shift. For the teachers that are here, it requires a total paradigm shift. Where are we now? Just a little bit. A lot of people have talked about where we are in Nigeria. Is the Nigerian national curriculum, do we even know what our vision is? If you have a vision, then you know. They say if you have a vision, write it and make it plain. That's what Habakkuk says. We don't even know where we're going. The North is saying something else. It's our Greek. Everybody go into our Greek. Another person will come, okay, go into oil. Depending on the president, whatever their resources, everybody's just totally confused as far as I'm concerned. So the national curriculum, is it fit for what we want to do? Are we going to bring a British curriculum, an American curriculum, continue to confuse our children? Is it preparing our students for the 21st century workplace? Is it designed in collaboration with private sector needs and in line with the jobs today? Are we preparing our children? We are in the 4th industrial revolution. Our teachers trained to teach digital natives. Every single child is on a mobile phone. That is the way they're learning. Do you now need to put all the content in your head and be doing rote learning? All of the information is on Google. You can Google it out. What are we talking about? So what you need to do is to get them to think and solve problems. Our children, when I talk to my students, sometimes I'll ask question randomly. In Abuja, Lagos is a bit better. And I start asking, and they're just looking at me like, I say, hello, somebody. Me, I'm not even in your generation, and I know about artificial intelligence. Hey, Mr. I want to be a lawyer. Excuse me, I was a lawyer. Boku, go to high court. You see them plenty, no jobs, no money. Why do you want to be a lawyer? When there's so many professions you can be. Anyway, the future of schooling. I just looked at this, and I thought, let me just, because I had this experience when I was doing my career fair with my students. Now, the future of schooling. This is Yemisi. She went to University of Nottingham, and my school sends a lot of children abroad. That's what we do. She studied LLB, LLM, next slide. She studied LLB, LLM, 6 years of studying. And in school, her parents spent £80,000 because on average, you spend about 25,000 in UK. Comes back, struggles to get a job. When I asked a friend of mine who's a lawyer, I said, how much do you pay lawyers now? She said, I'll pay her £140,000 per month. Now, compare that to Sheyi that finished in Jakonde High School with WAEC. He goes online to Udacity. Who knows Udacity here? Only 1 or 2 people. So you see where we are. We are all in a cocoon in this Nigeria. The world is moving. Hello, somebody. Udacity has a 6-month program, $200 a month. And what it does is prepares you with skills that is needed by Amazon, Google, exactly what the company needs. So they have profiled companies and they said that these are the skills they need. And they now brought a course and they said it's only $200. So guess what? Sheyi spends about $2,000 for a 10-month course. He gets a job. Andela partnered with Udacity. And Andela has taken so many young people who did not even go to university, and they've taken them abroad because they had this Udacity nano degree. So now he's earning $2,000 a month. Meanwhile, that one went to study law. So if you have children, please excuse me. Right now, it is not the law anymore. It's not the doctor. It's not the engineer. It is the people that the companies are looking for, people who will problem solve, who will solve and give them solutions. They're looking for people who are tech savvy. So you can be a lawyer and be tech savvy, but this is what's happening. This is the reality of the situation. So this is the reality of what's happening now. A lot of parents are still insisting. They come to me every day. Can my daughter study this, study that? I said, look, God has gifted them. They have skills, and there are skills that are needed in the private place, in the private sector. We need to profile those, and that's what you should prepare your child for, not for them to become a lawyer, because it's no longer necessary. We have too many lawyers. They don't have jobs. The problem with Nigeria is that we're unemployable. We are churning out graduates every day who are not employable because the companies don't need those skills. So they're on the streets every day causing problems and mayhem everywhere. Yet we say we are unemployed. Meanwhile, the companies don't have the people they need. They have jobs, but we don't have the skills. That's where we are. Next, where are we now? Just go on. Next one. So we're talking about drones, and yet we're talking about typewriter. I needed to bring that out so to make it clear. Our curriculum does not cover the breadth of skills, critical thinking, problem solving that is needed today. It does not teach STEM and robotics, artificial intelligence, all critical for the workplace. Next. So I'll just quickly go. I think these are some of the problems. Everybody knows about the problem. Go on, please. We have 13 million out of school right now. We have 55% of GSS 3 learners can read at primary level text. 55% of GSS 3, that's sad. And that was done by Learn Nigeria. And that's a TEP center. And they found that, and ESPN as well. 1 in 3 young people, Otto has talked about the population is unemployed, and it's a massive population. The learning achievement graph for the whole of Africa, Nigeria comes at the bottom. We are not learning. Our children are not learning in class. They're in class, they're not learning. They don't even, some of them don't have access, and they're not learning. Okay, in WAEC results, we have in 2015, this is a state that pays for WAEC. They paid 714 million for WAEC fees, and only 48%, I think, passed WAEC. So you are investing so much in WAEC, 714 million and only 48%. Lagos State is number 6, ranked number 6 in WAEC. You can imagine where Zamfara and Yobe and all of that. And that's 5 credits. And it's not surprising when the students who are, the teachers are teaching them themselves did not get the 5 credits. So what do you expect? What do you expect? You cannot give what you don't have, for crying out loud. So we have a fundamental problem. We have a systemic problem. We have a problem that we need to start from top there to bring it down. So unfortunately, states have to stay with what federal is giving them. And this is a challenge. So we are not educating our children. So what's going to happen to the, say, 80%, 60 or 70% who are not making 5 credits? They fall in the crack. And we're saying that they don't even have to fall in the crack. Can I even save some of these kids? Like Otto just gave you an example. A child that did not pass maths went to a good school and did 85%. So a lot of these kids are actually very brilliant. Unfortunately, the teachers have failed them because of the content that they're teaching them. Because the teachers in Global International College, if you're going to be a teacher and you're going to teach GSS 1 or let's even say SS3, we will test you on that paper. We'll test you on the GSS 3 paper. A lot of people have come to Global for interview and they scored 0% in maths. Guess what? If you don't score up to 70%, we will not take you in Global because you don't know it. So what are you coming to teach? So I'll quickly go on. So where are we again as we are talking about? So dropout rates are very, very high. We have about 55% dropout rates. And like I said, WAEC alarm is very alarming. It's very, WAEC results. I'll quickly go on. I won't talk about the population. I just want to talk about the last slide, which is where are we now? The picture that emerges from the facts above makes it imperative that we must act swiftly too if the bomb of a poorly educated, dysfunctional, yet youthful society is to be diffused. And we must act in big, bold, and disruptive ways, because incremental approaches, while useful, often militate against the development of the momentum. What we are doing in education reform, we are doing a systemic approach, and we are looking at holistic reform. We are going into schools. We said we're going to adopt schools in Nigeria, in Lagos State, starting with Lagos State, adopt 100 schools, take 10 schools, and put in those 10 schools, just like what Otto is doing, but doing senior secondary schools, put in everything the children need. Exactly what we are producing in private schools, like dancehall, Christian principles, health, everything, to make sure that these young people, and we're going to go to businesses and corporate world, come and give us money. That is exactly the model he runs. And we're going to do that. And that's why Nigerians must own their problems, and we must solve our problems. Enough of donor agencies. Espin spent £8 million. Pastor Ben was there when Espin was there. £8 million trying to solve problem for Lagos State. They have left now. It is back to square one. Because me and you did not stand up. But right now we are tired. So we are standing up and we are saying, it is our problem, we will solve it ourselves. We will go to our big men that are spending money and buying private jets, and we'll tell them to bring the money, and we'll go into the public schools, and we'll ensure, I have a private school. Auntie has a private school. We do it in our schools. Why can't we do it in the public schools? Why can't we make sure that these kids are getting 5 credits and moving on? Our teachers are very well trained, so we'll take them in. And that's what we are going to resolve to do. We do not have a choice. Okay. So I go to quickly. We need to embed 21st century. That's why they asked me to come and talk about. I told Yinka, I said, all this grammar you have. The one I want to talk, you won't allow me to talk. But I will talk about this technical bit. Anyway, let me just keep going. So key message. We need to embed 21st century skills in national curriculum. What do we need to do? Why are they so important? Why should educators promote 21st century skills? We need to predict the skills needed by GLOW, MTN. I'm sure if I ask a lot of people here who are even in teaching, they'll probably say, I couldn't get a job. And there are a lot of people, I'm sure a lot of people here are also still unemployed. And they'll be looking for jobs and going through up and down Lagos State and not getting jobs. We need to know the skills that the companies need. We need to analyze big data. Joberman profiles skills every day. We need to get a labor management system at the federal level to analyze the skills that are needed so that we can teach it in our classes. We can put it in our curriculum. And then because the companies need it, because MTN needs it, that means if I tutor a student, MTN will accept them because he has the skills that they need. Right now, when I'm tutoring them to use typewriter, MTN will say, look, I'm looking for people who can write the programs for me, coding, and you people are talking about typewriter. I beg, please move. So critical thinking skills, all of those things. So we need to do that. 21st century realities. These are the 21st century realities. Just quickly. It began 19 years ago. Guess what? Globalization. It's about technology. It's about redefining your classroom, redefining teaching, and its emphasis on life skills, and its emphasis on lifelong learning. It starts from the cradle and it ends in the grave. So you are going to continue to learn all through. It's about defronted classrooms, teachers as learner facilitators. I've told my teachers, when you come to Global, we do not have this kind of sitting anymore. In fact, I was afraid today, because I don't have attention span more than 5 minutes. You will see me, I will start moving. So I understand my students. I lose attention. So I tell the teachers, bite size. You have a collaborative setting. Because why? We are trying to get them to think. If I keep telling you stuff, and I'm telling all of you now, I'm sure some people's minds in Amara joints right now. It's not even here anymore. It's like, let her just finish, let me go. So we have to get together in a collaborative manner, and then we'll have projects. So I went to Calgary. I went to Imagine Now Learning a few years ago. And these children, when you go to a Google space, that is how schools should look like. You go to a Google space, everybody's relaxed. In fact, young people these days, I went to Farm Crowd, they are saying, now, wow, for these young people, they are all using music to learn. I cannot do anything. If there is noise, I can't even learn. But they're using music, and they had all these lovely couches. Everybody's just cool and doing their stuff. So we went to this Master Academy, and this young boy, 10-year-old, it was a room like this. And they were in groups. And I went to one of them. They had all these sticky notes on the board. I said, guys, what are you doing? 10-year-old. He said, yeah, we have a problem with flooding in Calgary. We have a problem with flooding in Calgary, and we need to resolve it. So we are all together trying to find the solution. 10 years old. We have a flooding in Lagos. In Lekki. Guess what? Because we have not taught our children to resolve our problem, everybody is just wondering, let us get our canoes out. Nobody can solve the problem. Nobody can solve the problem. They say, I have 5 minutes. So these are the core skills anyway. Core skills, the next one. Oh, yeah, it's way back, madam. Quickly, this is your thing, just go back just one bit. These are the core skills that are needed in the 21st century. Life skills, thinking skills, ICT, core subjects, 21st century assessment. Just keep going, keep going. Then literacy skills, just keep going. That is just the 4 skills: critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, very critical. Literacy skills, very important. They have to be able to read. Technology literacy. Life skills, leadership, initiative, productivity, social skills, flexibility. These are the things we must be teaching in our classrooms. Not just content, not just rote learning. So it's extracurricular. Teachers can say, how do I do this with this, my massive syllabus? But you can do it in extracurricular. Phenomenal-based learning. Business Day did a survey, and this is what they said in that survey. They said, what skills is most important for job success in hiring a graduate? Writing, work ethics. Nigerians don't have work ethics. It's sad. Good communication, social responsibility, critical thinking, and problem solving. And this is what they asked for. The shift in learning. The data, because of the internet, we can use a lot. A lot of people can learn, even in the north, because everybody has a mobile phone, like I said. And there's a learning community of teachers. There's a teacher network that we've just gotten from somebody now, which allows teachers to come together and train themselves. So because of the internet mobile thing, we can use that a lot. I'll quickly speed on and then go to the 4th industrial revolution. This is very important. The 4th industrial revolution, that's where we are on about. Exciting possibilities because of automation. Everything is being automated. So the jobs that you are doing right now in Nigeria, it has been automated in the US. So really, if you are looking for a job in the US, you won't find a job. We're still doing manual things, but it is going to come to us because companies are going to come and they're going to bring it to us. So we have to be ready. So we are talking about virtual reality. We're talking about artificial intelligence, robotics, all of this stuff. And then if you look at the courses, this is job rate. This is what profiles your skills. In the US, if you want to, you go into this and you put your skills in it and it matches you to the company because it's profiled what the company is worth. So you are able to get a job. These are some of the courses. Next one. Data science, artificial intelligence, quantum computing. How many people learn this in university, let alone secondary school? This is what we are supposed to be teaching in our curriculums. Biotechnology, 3D, nanotechnology, all these big names. For my own generation, I'm like, God help you guys. I don't know. But this is what they said they are looking for, and we need to change. Complex problem solving, creativity, all of that. Global trends, blended learning. A lot of these things, for young people who are here, I would advise you to go into open source learning, like Udacity, Udemy. There is nothing you want to learn that is not there. In fact, they will teach you more than, if you're in university or anywhere you are, these are the places. It's blended learning, and you can, Coursera is one of them. Please go on. Yes, Coursera is one of them. Udemy is one of them. All the courses you want. Just keep going down. One more. Now, so I'm just talking a bit about the student. Next one. So the student we're talking about now is not the traditional students. It's not the, just keep going. It's not the traditional students. It's a student that wants active participation because they're already used to the social media sector. They want you teachers to participate and to facilitate learning. Who wants to debate and discuss. He wants to present his ideas. It's not the Nigeria of old that you can only be seen and not be heard. In those days, your parents will stand, God help you, open your mouth. But now, they are not. They want to tell you. In fact, they came to my office the other day because I kept them back for extension classes. And one said, Mrs. Osman, can we set up a therapy class? I want to set up a therapy club. We need to talk about our issues. I said, hallelujah, praise the Lord. I am going to be part of it. So, good word. So, we open them up. Let them talk about their issues. Parents have to listen more. Parents are not listening. And a lot of these kids are depressed. So when they come like that to my room, I talk to them, we talk together, and we resolve the issue, and we put the devil to shame. Please, we will talk about that one later. So from master, we're talking about, this is the way we learn. This is the way we learn. This is the way they are learning. So you can see, please, next picture. Teacher, you can see that you are facilitating. You are not almighty, whatever. So this is the way they're learning now. What happened is, when they are teaching, this is what happened to us. So we're all sleeping. We're bored. But now this is the curious learner whose mind has been stimulated, who has been told that, look, you can conquer the world. Just go into the internet, everything you want there. But think about it. Think about what you are learning and apply it to real life situations, not to cram it. Then just a little bit about the teacher. The 21st century teacher must be cognitively sound. That means must have content, must be skilled in teaching, must love children. A lot of Nigerian teachers don't love children. No. A lot of Nigerian teachers don't love children. No. God help me. The videos I've seen on internet of how they beat and not, you must love. I love kids. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I love them. I love them around me. Motivated, cares for children, inspiring, flexible, and must want to learn himself. We have to get on the internet and learn and develop ourselves. So in conclusion, education is the currency of the 21st century. Nations compete largely on the basis of the quality of their human capital. Nigeria has a massive human capital. We have a lot of resources. We are not using our resources, and therefore it's laying to waste because our people are not skilled and they have not been taught to think about what to do and solve the problem. Nations are grappling with established strategies for education to the demands of the information age. The key question is how to use the unprecedented access and the volume of information to create new disruptive value chains and opportunities for economic growth. And I know that we can do it. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Sime. Thank you. So I'll introduce my senior educator in the room, Pastor Mrs. Augusto. She will take on the question and answer session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We're going to go straight to the point because we have very few minutes before we go back to the main auditorium. And as our able moderator has said, 3 questions only. So we will try. So just...
Okay, you have some questions.
You have to put... Yes, okay. Pastor has his hand up. One man, one lady there. And
are you sure Pastor is...
Pastor is allowed. Pastor is allowed. Okay, we take...
I'll ask, should we allow Pastor?
Yes.
You should take his question, okay?
Allow Pastor. So,
okay, the questions are already on the screen, okay. Pastor...
Okay, the questions are already on the screen. Those who know, we're taking 3.
Yeah. We don't... Everyone knows that Pastor just turned 60, so he doesn't know what slide they're doing.
He's a senior elder now. Senior elder, not just an elder. All right, so is Pastor's question up there?
Just 1 minute. 2 things I wanted to say. One, because I can see the zeal and the passion for education and the sector in this room. There's something happening now. There's a move to extend the retirement age of teachers in primary and secondary schools to 65. And incidentally, I can say it on whatever. I don't, right now, I'm about the only one opposed to it that I know. The people who have to sign off on the whatever, and I don't know what this forum thinks, but I'm strongly opposed to it. First of all, many of those teachers are not even 60, they're whatever, they're older than the ages that they're declaring. Secondly, there's, the age, the generation, it's not just an age gap, the generational gap and whatever. This, you're talking about 17th century, whatever that. It's only going to get worse by extending this, these people just want to hang on to. And then we have a country with, nearly 50% unemployment rate of the younger people, the youth unemployment rate, the people who can actually teach these children and they can connect better with, don't have the jobs, and these fellows want to hang on to. So you need people like you to know that this is before you just hear one day it's this thing, and to add your voices to the the opposition. The second thing is, I think it was Bolaji when talked about the states being helpless. I don't think they are as helpless as it might seem, even though there's a national policy on education that is. I recall during my time in Lagos State, back when one day at the Executive Council, we decided that this thing about history in taking off the curriculum was nonsense. And so we said that history as a subject would be restored to Lagos State schools. And they said it was not. And we took the federal government up. We said, well, the national curriculum prescribes a minimum. There should be no law that says you can't, that you can't do more. And they said, oh, but it will not be a tested, you can't test. We said, no problem. But we will teach history in Lagos State schools, even if it is not a tested subject. And so before the sanity returned to the rest of the country and history was returned, in Lagos State government restored history to the curriculum. So I think that the state governments need to be encouraged to.
Pastor should get his own 30 minutes. Okay. Ontario.
Okay, so I'll just respond to the first point about the teacher retirement age. So, growing up as a child, our grandparents were some of the best teachers we had. Grandparents who were in their 60s, their 70s, and their 80s. They'll bring us together, tell us stories, teach us, guide us. They were the most respected matriarchs of the homes, our grandparents. So I think somehow the conversation is being lost. How do you have a retirement age of 60 or 65 for a medical doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, but then you can elect the president who is 74 years old or 84 years old, or get people into the Senate House who are in their 80s and their 90s.
Clap for the guy! Clap for the guy!
But then you tell me that a 65-year-old woman who has gotten so much experience shouldn't be allowed to teach children if she loves to teach. I think the conversation is really not about the age. It's about the quality. It's about the content.
Yeah.
It's about the love and the passion.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I actually had said to Pastor, as he was raising that question, I said, oh, so I should go back to the classroom because I've turned 60 and I'm no longer actively teaching. And then all of a sudden, he now goes and says that we should all go and sit down somewhere. Thank you for responding. If the president is still in office, if we should go. Teachers, good teachers, old teachers. I mean, and I don't see myself as an old woman. In your class. Okay. No, I'm not saying that you should employ a 65-year. I think that you should also, because on the CVs, when people write CVs in England or in America or in Canada, they do not put their date of birth on it. They do not put their gender on it. They do not put their marital status on it. It's their skill.
The reason why I'm saying that is we had a gentleman who came from the UK and said the highest rate of mortality.
Okay, it's really more about the health as well now.
The highest rate of mortality for school is actually school owners and people who run schools. Once they retire, give them 5 years, they're dead. Running a school, I run a school. It is not the easiest running the 21st century child. You put a 65-year-old in front in the class, all she's going to do is cane them because she cannot handle them. She's too old. It is so rigorous. And then in terms of mental alertness as well, and learning all the stuff you have to learn, and to ensure that these kids are learning, it is a little bit difficult. That's why Lero said, get the gray hair off the stage. Get the gray hair off the stage. I need younger people. For succession, for succession planning, we are actually we're engaging younger teachers now. Younger teachers are more vibrant. They are more closer to their age. They are able to do stuff. My older teachers, I'm trying to get, and they're not even 60. They're too familiar. They're in their 40s, and I'm still thinking that they're a little bit stale. Let alone a 65-year-old in the technology age. We're talking about the fourth revolution, for crying out loud. Am I going to teach her all the stuff, artificial intelligence and all of those things, and she's coming to teach in her class? So, excuse me, for me, I will not allow them into my own class. Maybe Otto can take them into her class, but certainly not, for sure.
All right. All right. Okay.
I want to just balance this while we move on. Why am I saying that My daughter assists in running the school, and the students gravitate towards her more than they gravitate towards me. She understands technology, I don't. So she runs things better in all that area. But having said that, I want to talk about the other schools, the public schools. There was a state government that retired so many teachers. My big question was, how are you going to replace them? So we've got to go back to train teachers, get them trained, and get them to replace the older ones. The older ones need to be replaced, but trained in line with what Mr. Simmons said. Let's balance this and move on.
Amen. Thank you. I mean, it's quite diverse in terms of how we all will view it. This one. I have a degree in industrial physics, but interested in education. How can I work with volunteer organization in education? Slum to School.
Okay, so Slum to School, we are primarily a volunteer-driven organization, and we have about 40 different teams where everybody can fit in. Now, the structure was built so that as young people, we do not just complain about the problems, but we get into the field, fold our sleeves, wear our boots, and try to solve these problems. So whatever skill you have, we have accountants. Our finance and account team has accountants from Deloitte and KPMG and Accenture. We have photographers who are professional photographers. We have all kinds of executives. Now, every year we have openings for volunteers to apply. This year we had just inducted about 1,000 volunteers 3 weeks ago. Yeah, so if you want to apply, you go online, slumtoschool.org/volunteer, and you will fill the form and sign up. But then we are done taking volunteers for this year. That will be next year. And so we had about 10,000 applications last year. This year, basically, we had, and everyone is interviewed, because we have a huge community of people. We also want to ensure we have the right people who will come in. But apart from Slum to School, there's so many organizations out there. In fact, you could even go to your community school, the school beside you. Have you gone to find out what happens there? You know, have you gone to say, I want to volunteer to teach mathematics? I was good in maths. So you shouldn't just wait to be led. You should take the lead and try to solve the problems that are very close to you and very dear to your heart.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to the last question for this forum, and it reads, education does not seem to be a priority of our government. Senators' budget seems a higher priority. What can we do about this?
Yes, after you, I'll hand over the
Otto has answered the question. So we need to get young people into research. Actually, I think it's I think the reason why education reform innovation is in place is just to do exactly this. We believe that before you can take the speck out of your eye before you complain. In the private sector, we need to showcase what we're doing in the private sector for the public sector to say, oh, you're doing a good job. And that's why I mentioned that education reform is looking at piloting schools, going to public sector and taking over certain schools, like the charter schools, the free schools. The thing is, government, depending on the government that comes, President Obasanjo was very, very interested in education, and he pumped a lot of money into education, and that was when we had the best reforms. So it now depends, but with President Buhari, he believes more in agriculture. So they tend to do what they feel they believe in. And then the Minister of Education, if he's not even an educator. So one of the things that we are profiling when we did the transition, even for Lagos State, when we did the strategy, is that whoever you're taking into those positions must be people who have at least 15 years of experience in reform work. We listed out the thing for them. So we actually say it all the time, but it depends on when they get there, they do what they want. But then, it depends, like Otto said, it is you, me, coming together and speaking as one voice. And that's what education reform, if you want to be part of education reform, you want to volunteer, even reformers program, Arise Reformers that Alero does, she's training reformers in education. If you want to be part of us, let a critical mass come together and start advocating for education in Nigeria. Let's go on Twitter, let's go on social media and say that our children have to be taught. When they hear our voice, they will move, and the Senate will go to the House of Assembly, will go to the National Assembly, we go everywhere until they hear us. And that is the voice of a citizen. We are the ones that can make the change.
Well said. No, you're good. Pastor Abed, oh, yes.
Earlier on, Yinka didn't want me to speak, but this one now, she's the one wanting me to speak. And I'm quite happy to speak. First of all, okay, I'm not going to tell you that we spend nearly enough, as much as we ought to spend on education. But the reality is we don't spend enough on anything. Public expenditure ratio in Nigeria, public expenditure to GDP ratio in Nigeria is 1/3 of the African average. So it's not only in education or health or any whatever that we are underspending. We are underspending across board. And one of the reasons we are underspending also is that the truth is we don't pay taxes in Nigeria. We have the lowest tax to GDP ratio in the world. So compared to even other African countries, our tax to GDP ratio is 1/3 of the African average. So not surprisingly, we also, our public expenditure to GDP ratio is also 1/3. But unfortunately, we also have a challenge with quality of expenditure. So even the inadequate amount we're spending, the quality is also suspect. We're not getting full value for it. So it just compounds the problem. As to education not getting the right priority in the budget, for the 2020 budget, for instance, the 2020 budget goes up. The budget of National Assembly is 125 billion naira, but the aggregate provision for education in that budget is 940 billion naira. Billion, okay, consisting of, there's 490 billion to pay, for recurrent expenditures, paying salaries and, the overheads of the schools. There's 48 billion naira for the capital budget for the ministry, and then the universities and unity colleges. Then there's 112 billion naira for UBEC, and there's 272 billion naira for TET fund. When you add all of that up, and then there's 20 billion naira, the special allocation for restoration of infrastructure in the universities. It's a total of 940 billion naira in the federal government's own budget. Education is on the concurrent legislative list. All the state governments are supposed to budget for education. The 774 local governments are supposed to produce annual budgets and provide for education. That's the constitutional arrangement in Nigeria. But in Nigeria, everybody's just focused on the federal government and the federal budget. But our constitutional arrangement says the revenues are shared and gives each of those tiers of government taxing powers. So we need to hold, everybody talks about what the federal government has budgeted for education, but hardly does anybody know what even the states in which they live budgeted for education. Hardly does anybody even know that their local government is supposed to have an annual budget, and to ask how much are you budgeting for education in this.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Pastor Mrs. Augusto, again, for taking the questions. And I want to thank the speakers again. Thank you all. I'm sure you've had a wonderful afternoon so far. I can assure you this was the best room to be in the whole of this building. I'm sure you know that. So just to remind you again that once you leave this room, you go downstairs to the cafeteria. Your badge, which you used to register, you used to pick.
I have a question.
We have finished. We are already running late.
I'm sorry, but
we are running late.
It's for the speakers, please.
We are running late, ma. Should I? Yeah. This is a democracy. Should I? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
My apologies to everyone, but education is a subject that, it's in my heart, and I'm pleased that I can see this group of quality people speaking about it. But I had a question for three of you. Mr. Simon, you spoke about how you went to some office in Abuja and they were like, Mr. Simon, go away with your ideas. So I was going to ask if the educators in Nigeria, by any chance, have an advocacy group. The reason I say this is I work in an industry where this industry has come together under the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and has formed a very strong advocacy group. And what happens there is that all the individual companies second their staff. So you have quality people in there who sit down and monitor federal government policies. They read the bills and policies line by line. They identify the areas that don't work, and they go head on with legislatures. We go for public hearings, and we speak concerning these things. So I was going to say that you're facing that resistance because you've gone as one person. And my question to all the educators that I see now is there an active advocacy body? Do you guys come together and second people from your companies to that place or to your institutions to sit down and go as a group to these groups of people in Abuja who are not listening, because they will hear you if you go in your strength? That was just my one question. Thank you.
That was about 6-7 years ago, and that wouldn't happen again anyway, as far as I'm concerned, because they invited us, so it wasn't as if we went. So the reason why Education Reform Team has come up, we have a team for advocacy, and also NESG is one very formidable organization as well that we've worked with, because NESG works with federal on policy, and they're looking at that. So we're going to strengthen exactly what you said. We're strengthening the team. We have a lot of people who are very good in terms of policy and research, like Mo Adefeso, for example, they're in that team. So we're going to strengthen that, and I have mentioned a couple of policies here today that we're going after. The College of Education one, we're going to have a very strong advocacy group that they need to improve and increase. In Finland, you cannot teach in primary unless you have a master's degree. So we're going to make sure that changes. We're going to make sure that that shorthand and the comes out of the curriculum. That's why I said we came together. We were tired of being pushed back. So we are now together as Education Reform Team. And if you want to join us, if you're in the media, we have a media team. Channels is on it, and quite a few people are on it. And we're going on social media, and we're going to the House of Assembly. We're going everywhere. Like you said, we are taking the policies, we're tearing them apart, and we're going to go to them and say, look, this is what we want. And we're going to have very, very strong, there's an annual conference coming up for FME, and we're going to be part of it. So we're going to be talking to them. We're talking to the Federal Ministry of Education, and I know they will listen. When you go as a group, it's easier. So I take what you said, and that's exactly what we're going to do in the education. We're really determined to do it this time around. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sima again. So your badge, as I was saying, does anybody remember the last thing I said? What was the last thing I said before she asked the question? Teacher, Lena. Okay, yes, your badge would, when you go downstairs on the first floor, that's where the cafeteria is. Your badge is what you would use to pick up your lunch. So thank you again for being a wonderful audience. So I'll see you downstairs. Thank you.